before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents.
So what happened was, Israel was wilding, just to make a long story short. And the Most High took his hedge behind him, around him, and the king became a servant of the king of Assyria. In order to prevent from being destroyed all outright, he had to continue to send tribute to the king of Assyria. That was the only way that at that point that Israel was remaining as a nation. All right, verse 4.
And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to Tuso, king of Egypt, and brought no presents to the king of Syria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Syria shut him up and bound him in prison.
Okay, so what happened was, he came up with this idea of saying, look, I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna give the king, his name was So, I'm gonna give King So some money, try to form an alliance with him, so that way he can get me up on the king of Assyria. See, this is what happens. This is what happens. When you walk away from the Most High, it leads you to have to compromise. It leads you to have to make deals with people that you really wouldn't want to be doing with. And this is what's going on with our people in America. Because we don't have a true relationship with the Most High. That's why we're constantly making deals and compromises. That's why we're constantly having to do things outside of what we would normally do. This is how you have our women doing what they're doing. This is why you have our men in the streets doing what they're doing. This is how you have all this rise of these sudden social media, Instagram and YouTube sensations who are doing things that they normally wouldn't want to do, but they're doing it because they don't have a relationship with the Most High. So in past times, the king of Israel would have just simply went. They would have just simply went to the Most High, prayed, and the enemy would have been taken care of. But when you're breaking the law, you're breaking the statutes, and breaking the commandments of the Most High, then you have to make a deal with the devil. And this is where our people are today. This is why we're doing what we're doing today. This is why our women are naked all the time on TV. This is why our men are playing themselves constantly over and over. Because they're having to make deals because they don't have a God to go to. And that's even in the church. That's even in the church. Verse 5.
Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah, the harbor by the river of Gozan.
So now, it done got to the point now that he went and camped around it, suffered them, starved them out, and then went in there and started taking the people out and taking them into other nations. This is what happens when you forget who gave you what you got. Verse 7.
For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had fear of the gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathens, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made.
That's what we're doing right now. That's what we're doing right now. We taking on stuff what all these other Gentiles are doing. There are things back in the day, man, that our people wouldn't never be doing, but we're doing it now. I mean, there was a certain thing that you would hear be done, and you would automatically say, yeah, I know that. There ain't no black man that did that. There ain't no black woman did that. But then you look deeper into it and you find out, yeah, it is. You can't believe it. Like certain things with our children, the things that we're doing publicly, the things that we put on social media. If you'd asked 10 years ago some of the things that we're doing now, it was like, no way. In our parents' time, no way we would be doing some of the stuff that we're doing now. Publicly, no problem. I mean, there's always been people doing stuff they had no business. But at least people had a sense enough to do it behind closed doors. in the closet, as they would say. Now, all out for everybody to see. What? And this is what happens. This is what happens when you do these things. This is where we are, why we are where we are today. Verse 9.
And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, and built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city.
What makes us believe, right, that we can do anything that the Most High don't know? So all these folks, these leaders in the church, right, they'll go out, go on these little so-called church conferences and do all this wild mess, right? Just wild. Orgies, drunkenness, just doing all this nonsense, right? And then come back to the layman and act like nothing's happened, right? And they think just because you're getting away from it and people don't see it, that doesn't mean that the Most High don't see it, right? So this is what they thought. It's like we're gonna build these places, right? And we're not gonna let certain people know that we got it, because back then, if you were doing stuff that that was pagan and for demons and other gods, your neighbor would come and take you out. You understand? That's what the law would say. Your neighbor would take you out. So now we're doing it secretly, like the Most High don't know it. Verse 10.
And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree.
Taking the land that the Most High gave them, taking the possession that the Most High gave them, and building statues and temples to other gods. Verse 11.
And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger.
So now you're in your church now. Now you're in your church doing nonsense, right? Like, for instance, the situation that we seen a couple months ago that had people wild on social media with the kids doing a so-called, what you call a praise dance to some Jay-Z song with cuss words in it and everything. And then the pastor coming out and defending it. So yeah, I do. I even cuss when I pray. That's what he said. Right? Where people come in there and got R&B singers that sing nonsense, and you put them on your tracks now. Coming to church. Got rappers and stuff who rap all kind of vulgarity. You can take them and put them on the gospel song. Where BT will say they're doing a gospel explosion. Don't invite any real gospel singers on there. Invite R&B singers on there, and let them sing in God's music. And people in the crowd like, oh, hey, thank you, Lord. Yeah, thank you, Jesus. Yeah, this is what we're doing. Yeah. But then we wonder where we are today. Verse 13.
For they serve idols where the Lord has said, unto them ye shall not do this
They
thing.
serve things what he told them not to do. Don't do it. And they went and did it anyway. Verse 13.
Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn ye from your evil ways, and keep the commandments of my statutes according to the law which I commanded your fathers.
So the Most High, in his merciful self, still sent prophets, still sent seers, still sent men and women of God to proclaim the truth and beg of the people, like, turn away. This is what you're seeing right now. The Most High sent us here today, and he's sending other people. You got men and women in all these communities around the country standing up saying, yo, turn from this stuff. Get back to the law, statute, commandments. Get back to being who you are as an Israelite. Get away from this culture. Take the Black Lives Matter shirts off. Get out of the street protesting. Put the drugs down. Put the guns down. Stop fornicating. Stop being homosexual. Stop being deadbeat dads. Get out the club. Take the naked pictures down. Stop being vulgar. Stop being profane. Come back. Come back. You know what they call you? You're a legalist. You're a Jesus freak. I'm going to go over here where he tell me God love me anyway. God know my heart. Right? You puff up and you put up these guys who lie to you and tell you anything you want to hear. But the people who are actually trying to awaken you and tell you who you are, you don't want to have anything to do with it. As long as the preacher telling you that you can do whatever you want to, you'll like his statuses, you'll post his stuff, you'll share it, you'll put him on there, you'll go to his church, you'll give him money, you do everything you want. But somebody who actually telling you what the Bible says, I want to hear it. And this is what our people did then. But look what it said in verse 14.
Notwithstanding, they should not hear, but harden their necks like to the neck of their fathers, and did not believe in the Lord their God.
And did not believe. Verse 15.
And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after heathens that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them that they should not do like them.
So now we want to be like everybody else. We're going to go do what the nation's doing. We're going to reject the law. We're going to reject the statutes and commandments. The Most High come to us, made his own people, his apple of his eye, treated us like we were so special, called us the special people above all people. But now we want to do what they're doing. And just like how some of us did as teenagers. Our parents raising up us in the home, taking care of us, doing what we needed to do. And then we get as teenagers, and some other kids get to do whatever they want to do, go wherever they want to go, stay out all night, and we say, hey, we want to be with them. So we start lying to our parents, sneaking out, doing all this nonsense, forgetting who the one to protect us. Now those people, most of them locked up, or got a bunch of babies out of wedlock. And we sitting here now, we say, "Mom, thank you now. I appreciate it now." Should have been thankful then. But we wasn't. And this is what our people did. Verse 16.
And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made them molten images, even to calves, and had a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and they served Baal.
Those two calves is Yahweh. Those are the same two calves that they got Aaron to build when they came out of Egypt. When Moses was up on the mountain and he hadn't got down to, he had spent 40 days up there in the mountains getting the law. They got impatient and they built these two calves. The same two calves that you see in 1 Kings 12 chapter that the king of Israel brought back from Egypt when he went down to Egypt. And the Jewish people, with they slick self, tried to slip this into our vernacular, and got us calling on this satanic God. So you hear it in a lot of Christian songs. You hear people saying it in a lot of their sermons. Yahweh is not the Most High. Don't believe the hype. Okay? The name of our Father is a higher, a sure, a higher. I am that I am in English. There ain't no Yahweh. Okay? So they out here worshiping a Canaan God. Canaanite God, which is Satan himself. And when it says that they're worshiping the host of heaven, these are the fallen angels. And Baal, which is Satan himself, straight out. This is what our people were doing. Verse 17.
And they caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, and used divinations and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger.
They began to sacrifice their own children. And this Easter, the churches are still doing every year. That's what they were doing. They was having these orgies that come along with the Easter celebration. And the kids that were birthed during those times, the next year, they would sacrifice it to Molech. That star you see the Jewish people have, they call the Star of David. They ain't the Star of David. It's the Star of Molech, Satan. This is what our people were doing. Verse 18.
Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
That's it. So that's how the 10 tribes fell. That's how Israel was destroyed. Done. He removed them out of his sight. I'm done with you. Today's lesson is called The Rebirth of a Nation. I needed to show you, beyond any shadow of a doubt, how we got to where we are today. How our people, how the Indians, how everything they went through. It's because of this. How the Mexicans are going through what they're going through is because of this. How the people of South and Central America are going through what they're going through is because of this. You have to understand that. Now, you see, he said that only Judah was left. This is our people. This is the nation of Judea that was left in the time of Christ. Let's go to Jeremiah 17. I'm going to show you what happened to us. Just walk with me now. I know this is going to be a lengthy lesson, but I had to do this lesson today because I see that our people are being distracted. Our people are being led astray by a bunch of nonsense, all these other distractions that are coming up, and now the people, some people first encounter with what they call Israelites is something crazy and wild. And I'm telling you here today that we are Israelites. You is an Israelite. And it ain't a religion, it ain't a belief system. It's the blood that's in your veins. And we're going to prove to you here today that you are an Israelite. You are from the tribe of Judah, from the nation of Israel. And we're going to show you that here today. Jeremiah 17. Let's look at verse 1 there.
The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their hearts and upon the horns of their altars.
Listen to that right there. You understand what it takes for a diamond to carve something in? Now you would think, right? It's kind of like this right here. You grew up in a household with a bunch of kids, right? And you got an older sibling, right? And they wild out, disrespect your parents, and they get whoopings and get grounded and get punishment. And you would think that those sitting back watching what happened to the older brothers, you would think, like, man, I see what one of them did to him, boy. I definitely ain't gonna do that. You would think what the Most High allowed to happen to Israel, that Judea would say, no, I'm not gonna do that. If you kept reading in 2 Kings 17, they said they went and did the same thing that Israel was doing. It's not Jeremiah saying now the sins is engraved into their hearts. That means it ain't just there in their minds. It's their whole being. And it's not only in their hearts, but you say it was also where?
Upon the horns of their altars.
But it's also on the altars. It's just like in our churches. When we're meeting on Sunday mornings, when the Most High said, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And as we told you before, we know that's not your fault. We know how that got to being that way. But Sunday worship is not of the Most High. And if you want to get some understanding of what we're talking about with all those things, go back and watch our lesson from week 22 called It's Time to Set Things in Order. And we go through and show you everything in the Bible, that the way it's supposed to be versus the way it is now. So when you look in our churches, you see the sins of the people all over it. How you just got anything can go. Anything going in the church. There's a particular scripture where Christ comes into the temple and runs out the money changers into the temple, said, you taking my father's house was a household of prayer and turned it into a den of thieves. And this is what the churches look like today. People putting ATMs in the lobbies. Selling fish plates and chicken plates. Bake drives. People bringing in these women with selling jewelry in the church. Doing concerts and comedy shows and all this in the church, standing outside of the house of God, collecting money to get in. Bringing in these big time preachers and saying, well, hey, you got to pay this money to get in here, buddy. Doing conferences at the church and charging people to come to the conference. Basically saying, look, if you don't got this money, you don't deserve this. preachers and singers doing honorariums, saying, unless you pay this amount of money, I ain't coming. This is what's going on today. Now don't misunderstand, there's nothing wrong with taking an offering, a love offering. When people come and people, want to bless you. But it's another thing to tell the church, unless you pay this amount of money, I ain't coming. There was a particular instance, I'm not gonna name the area, but I was in a particular area doing a free men's conference for the people. And I noticed that there was a group here that had been in another area that I saw at this gospel concert. So I reached out to them from the same city that I was doing the conference in. Told me they need $350 to do 3 songs. 3 songs. Said they need $350. And all I had to do was ride down the street. This is where we are. This is what we got to. So read that for them again.
The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their hearts and upon the horns of their altars.
Verse 2.
Whilst their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high places.
You see that? Back to what he was talking about in Deuteronomy 32. Well, now the children, that's all they know is the pagan stuff. All they know is the nonsense. Like, you can sit a child down now, and they can tell you everything to do with church, but they can't tell you anything that got to do with the Bible. But they know the nonsense. They know the catching the Holy Ghost. They know that. They know the fake preaching, when the fake hooping and hollering, and preachers standing on tables and standing on chairs and screaming and hollering, yes sir, say yeah, say yeah, say yeah. You got all these little videos of these kids imitating the preachers that they say. But how many of the kids are actually imitating the walk of Christ? So he said the children remember their altars and their wooden images. Verse 3.
O my mountain in the field, I will give thee substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all thy borders.
See, he said right there, all your great land that you got, all these little places that you done set up for these other gods, I'm giving it away to the nations. Just like I did your other brothers, I'm doing the same thing to you. You want to sin? You act like you don't know me? I'm going to do the same thing to you. Verse 4.
And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy heritage.
You shall do what?
Even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage.
Remember back in Deuteronomy 32? When he told them and said, I will make the remembrance of your name not be anymore. I told you there the same thing here in Jeremiah 17. And what else he said?
That I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thy enemies in a land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever.
Now I want you to remember that when we get to Deuteronomy 28. And I want you to think right now, what other people in the world do you know went to a land and served people that they didn't know? Today's lesson is entitled Rebirth of a Nation. Now, go to Malachi, the 3rd chapter. So I showed you here where we started. I showed you the fall of Israel. I showed you the fall of Judea. Now we're about to go to Malachi, because if I went into the Gospels of Mark, James, and Luke, we'd be pinned it down there for a while. So I'm going to go to Malachi, and I'm going to show you the prophecy of Christ coming, why he was coming, and what he was going to accomplish when he came. It's very important. So I need you to pay close attention, and you're going to have to write this down, because we're going to be going back and forth here, because we got some precepts that we got to give you that's very important here. So Malachi, the 3rd chapter. Read verse 1 for him right there.
You said Malachi 3?
Yeah, Malachi 3.
Okay. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Mm-hmm. Even the messenger of the covenant whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts.
Okay, now, that's very important. Now, read that first part for that again.
Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me in the Lord.
Okay, what he's talking about here is John the Baptist. This is the prophecy of John the Baptist coming. Notice he says, I'm going to send my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me and the Lord. The Lord is talking about Christ. Me, of course, is the Most High. You understand? So he's saying here, he's prophesying that I'm going to send my messenger, which is John the Baptist. Because notice when you look into Matthew, John the Baptist went out before Christ. He was born a few months before Christ, and his ministry started before Christ's ministry started. He began to tell the people, repent, thy kingdom is at hand. Thy kingdom is at hand. Because, remember, I told you, Israel as a nation has failed. Judea has failed. During this time, all these times you see these prophecies are coming are different captivities that we was in. We started out in captivity of Babylon, then we went to Persia, we went back and restarted the nation, then the Greeks came, then the Romans. So we went from captivity to captivity to captivity. During those times, the Most High was sending prophets telling them, yo, all of this is about to change in due time. Now, read that for them again, because we're about to take you to a precept.
Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me and the Lord. Whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, and even the messenger of his covenant.
Even the messenger of his covenant, which is Christ. Now, go with me, hold your place there, go to me to Jeremiah 31. The reason that we're doing this here is the covenant, according to the Gentile church, and the way they talk about today, is with the church. Right? That's the way they try to present it, as if the covenant has been made with them. I'm going to show you here what the Most High said the covenant is really with. You can say, why is that important? It's important because we're talking about here today the rebirth of a nation. And because we don't know who we are as a people, we coming in through the back door when the Most High is trying to get us to see that we are already in the house. You understand? So many people think that, the church and everything is set up for the church, and we go to the church and we listen to the Gentiles and Billy Graham and John Hagee and Kenneth Copeland, and these guys are putting us on, and thank God for them. Bless them. Appreciate them. But you have to understand that none of these guys would exist without us as Israelites. Okay? So you have to understand that it's very important that we are not an oppressed people. We are a fallen people. We are a fallen people. The covenant is not with the church. You're about to see who the covenant was. Jeremiah 31, look at verse 31.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, and that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
With the Jewish people.
The house of Israel and the house of Judah.
With Gentiles.
The house of Israel and the house of Judah.
No, it's with the church.
The house of Israel and the house of Judah.
Nah, man, you're reading the wrong thing. It's with the Catholic Church.
I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah.
With the house of Israel and the house of Judah. The two nations that I showed you that have fallen. So if they were done away with, why would he be making a new covenant with them? Keep going.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband to them, saith the Lord.
See, notice here he's making it specific that the covenant, the first covenant, the Old Testament, was made with Israel, and he's showing you this new covenant that I'm making is with Israel. Not the church, not the Gentiles, not the Jewish people, us. Keep going.
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts.
He will do what?
I will put my law in their inward parts and write in their hearts. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
And they shall be my people. But I thought the Gentiles said that the law was done away with. You notice how what happens when you actually read the Bible? It's so much different than what is being taught in the churches. Read verse 31 for him again.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah.
With the house of Israel and the house of Judah. This is the new covenant. Not with the Gentiles, not with the church, not with the Jewish people, but with our people. The so-called black man, the so-called African-American man, and so on and so on. Today's lesson is entitled, The Rebirth of a Nation. Now, let me give you some understanding here. This covenant is also, just so you don't pull that, man, that's Old Testament on me. If you go to Hebrews, the 8th chapter, verse 8 through 13, that covenant is restated there by Paul in the book of Hebrews. Hebrews, the 8th chapter, verse 8 to 13. Notice that the fact that it was restated in a book called the book of Hebrews, where Paul wrote this letter to the Hebrews back in Judea to get them to understand why they needed Christ and why they not need to be under Moses anymore, but need to follow law, statute, commandments under Christ. That was the whole book of Hebrews is about. That was not written to no Gentiles. It was written to the Hebrews for them to understand that it was time to transition from the Mosaic to Christ. That covenant is written with our people. The New Testament is our covenant. Okay? Now, this covenant was implemented when Christ raised from the dead, but it began, it began and went into effect during Acts the 2nd chapter on the day of Pentecost, which is also called the Feast of First Fruit. When all these Israelites from all over the world came back to Jerusalem, the Most High blessed us with the Holy Spirit. They began to speak in tongues, which was not just jibber jabber, but they were speaking in a language so that all these Israelites that were speaking all the different languages would hear the gospel of Christ in their language. They took the gospel of Christ back to their nations, and that's what were the beginning stages of the rebirth of our nation. But there's some things that we had to go through. There's some very important things that had to take place. We're going to show you that in a minute. But now, go to James 1. We're going to need to read this other precept so you can see this. They like to present the New Testament like it was just about the Gentiles. But we need to show you this so this goes along so you can get this full understanding about the rebirth of a nation. Now, let them get that. James, the 1st chapter. We're going to read verse 1. Then we're going to read verse 16. Now, read that for him.
James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes.
To the Jewish people.
To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
So if the tribes is done with, why in the world is James writing a letter to the 12 tribes? This is the rebirth of a nation. Now, go to verse 16. No, excuse me, verse 16.
Do not err, my beloved brother, for every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom no variableness, neither shadow of turning.
Mm-hmm.
Of his own will begat he us the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures.
We are what?
Should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures.
First fruits. That means when he wrote this letter to the 12 tribes, he was letting them know that they were the first fruits of the new nation. Today's lesson is entitled, The Rebirth of a Nation. Now, let's slow down for a second. So we know we done gave you a lot of information. We got a lot more to give you. I know we've been with you now. I know this is a long, extensive lesson. I know it is. But we got to put this all together. Where we at raw time frame right now?